The bookshop had stood on the corner of Maple and Fifth for 31 years, and for the last 11 of those years, it had been ruled by a grey tabby named Ptolemy. He was not a large cat, he was not particularly beautiful, but he sat on the highest shelf in the store, a full 6 feet off the ground with the calm authority of a creature who understood exactly why he was up there. It wasn't vanity, it was biology. Ptolemy's hind legs were wound like compressed springs, capable of launching him to 5 or 6 times his own body length in a single burst. From the top shelf, he could see every corner of the shop, every mouse that dared to enter, every suspicious rustle behind the travel section. Height was not a luxury for Ptolemy. It was strategy, inherited from ancestors who had survived on open ground by seeing danger before danger saw them. Eleanor Voss had owned the bookshop since she was 34. She was now 65, and she had long since stopped trying to understand Ptolemy on human terms. She had learned this lesson the hard way. On the morning she rearranged the shop, moving the fiction section from the east wall to the west, shifting the armchairs, replacing the old wooden counter with a sleek modern desk. Ptolemy did not complain. He did not hiss. He simply disappeared behind the poetry shelves, and did not come out until evening. Eleanor thought he was sulking. She told customers he was being dramatic. She was wrong on both counts. What she didn't know was that Ptolemy's nose was recording everything. While humans navigate the world with 5 to 6 million olfactory receptors, Ptolemy possessed somewhere between 45 and 80 million in certain highly specialized breeds. The number climbs as high as 200 million. His sense of smell was roughly 14 times sharper than Eleanor's. To him, the rearranged shop was not the same shop at all. The old counter had smelled of 30 years of Eleanor's hand cream, coffee, the particular must of aging paperbacks, and a faint trace of the mouse he had caught behind the biography section in 2019. The new counter smelled of lacquer, factory plastic, and nothing else. It was profoundly disorienting, and disorientation, in a creature governed by routine, has a biological cost. His cortisol levels, the stress hormone shared by both cats and humans, had spiked the moment he rounded the corner and found his world restructured. He wasn't sulking. He was recovering. By the third day, the new arrangement had begun to smell like his shop again, layered over with the familiar scents of Eleanor and the books, and the particular dust of winter afternoons. By the fourth day he was back on the high shelf, watching the door with professional calm. Eleanor noticed none of this, but she did notice and quietly filed away that he seemed better once things had settled. There was a regular customer named Daniel who was convinced he understood cats. They love being pet, he told Eleanor one November afternoon, reaching for Ptolemy without asking. You just have to do it confidently. Ptolemy endured approximately 40 seconds of this. Then he stood up, walked to the far end of the shelf, and sat down with his back to Daniel. Daniel looked wounded. He hates me. He doesn't hate you, Eleanor said. He's done. This was the more accurate version. Feline tolerance for physical contact is not a fixed number. 2 or 3 minutes is an oversimplification that flattens what is actually a deeply individual calculation. It depends on where you are touching. The base of the tail is almost universally unwelcome. The cheeks and the base of the ears are generally better. On the cat's genetics, on how well he knows you, and on what kind of day he has been having. Ptolemy's signals had been visible if Daniel had known to read them. The flick of the tail, the slight rotation of the ears, the tension that gathered in his shoulders before he walked away. The bond was not broken. It never was, over a single unwanted touch. The research was clear on this. Feline-human bonds are more resilient than the internet tends to suggest. When Daniel came back the following week and sat quietly at the reading table without reaching for anything, Ptolemy descended from the shelf on his own, circled Daniel's ankles once, and settled on the chair beside him. Daniel looked triumphant. Eleanor did not explain. Some things were better learned than explained. People sometimes asked Eleanor if Ptolemy ever got lonely. She found the question interesting, mostly for what it revealed about the person asking. Ptolemy did not experience loneliness in the way the word implies, that particular ache of conscious absence, of knowing that someone was gone and understanding the shape of the missing. That kind of existential awareness belongs to beings who carry narrative. Cats operate through association and conditioning. They navigate through pattern, through sensory memory, through the reliable architecture of their days. What Ptolemy did experience when Eleanor was away for a week one summer was a disruption of the patterns he depended on. No footsteps at 7:30, no smell of coffee at 8, no particular creak of the back door at noon. These absences registered not as grief in any human sense, but as a structural wrongness, the way a missing step on a staircase registers before the mind has named what's happened. He ate less. He groomed more than was useful. He stayed on the high shelf more than he needed to. When Eleanor came back, he did not rush to the door. He waited on the shelf, watching her move through the shop, restoring the sounds and smells to their correct positions. When she finally sat down in her chair and opened her book, he descended, walked across the counter, and settled on the armrest. Not because he had waited for her his whole life, because the pattern was whole again. Eleanor sometimes talked to him. She knew, in a rational way, that the conversation was one-sided, but there was something she did find genuinely remarkable, the fact that he talked back at all. Adult cats in the wild do not meow at each other. Feral cats communicate through scent marking, through pheromones, through the nuanced vocabulary of tail position and ear angle, and slow blinks. The meow, that particular vocalization, was developed by domestic cats over generations of living alongside humans. It had been shaped, researchers believed, to fall within the frequency range of a human infant's cry, a range that humans are neurologically primed to respond to with attention and care. Ptolemy was, in the most scientific sense of the phrase, speaking her language. She found this fact either deeply charming or mildly unsettling, depending on what kind of day she was having. On good days, it seemed like a remarkable proof of adaptation, two species reaching across a vast biological distance to say something to Earth, ch other. On harder days, she wondered who exactly was training whom. She suspected the answer had always been obvious. She suspected Ptolemy knew it too. At 11 years old, he moved a little more carefully to the high shelf. He took the middle route, now counter to armchair to shelf, rather than the single leap he had favored in his youth. Eleanor had placed a small step between the armchair and the shelf without drawing attention to it, pretending it had always been there. Ptolemy used it without acknowledgement. From the top shelf, the bookshop spread below him, the orderly rows of spines, the afternoon light settling across the floorboards. Eleanor bent over her inventory with her glasses pushed up on her forehead. His nose sorted the room into its familiar layers. His eyes tracked the door. His body registered the particular warmth of this corner, the familiar texture of the wood beneath him. Everything was in its place. Everything was within the architecture of what a cat can know, exactly as it should be.